right, it's jpeg2RAW photo review show number 11. 11 months we've been doing this, AD. All we have is one more month and we've done a whole year. We do this photo review show once a month, reviewing the photos that were entered into now 2 contests, one in our beginners group and one in the regular jpeg2RAW group. You can also go over to our webpage. We'll show you that at the end and enter. And I look at this show, AD, as training for me, for anybody who's listening. Even if you didn't enter a photo in there, listening to the feedback, mainly AD's feedback, listen to the feedback is a way to grow and take better photos. How to improve your photography skill. If you listen to what he has to say, and he gives a lot of great advice on how you can do this. So we picked some of the images. I think I put all of them in there, AD, but I'm not gonna put us through every one of them. So I will skip through some of them. If I skip one that you wanted me to do, call me out. But there's too many for us to do. At one point we talked about trying to limit it to 10. We'll do 10-ish, but feel free to, if I skip one that you want me to do that. All right, cool. So let me get us set up and we'll get right into it. So let me get rid of that lower third, and I also got some new neat frames. I don't know if y'all can see those. And can you see what I'm streaming live, or you just see me still?
I'm watching this. I have the stream over here on my iPad so that I can interact. Hi, Molly. Hi, Willie. How you guys doing? Ireland, that is totally awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. People over on YouTube too, and I have both windows up and going. So I'll try to answer any questions along the way. Sometimes when I get into a critique on an image, I kind of like in the image. So if I don't get right to you, I'll try to do it. Try to look over and check. I'm new to looking and interacting, so I will try to do my best. Not overall interacting, but
I am trying to watch if you watch the Facebook, I'm having trouble with my thing here. Willie Ford says good morning.
Yeah, he's in Ireland. That is awesome. The homeland for me.
So before we get started, I know sometimes I don't give you this information up front, you or the people listening, watching, is the theme for each one of the groups. So the beginner group, which is what we'll do first, their theme was black and white. Later, when we do the regular group, their theme was simplicity. And I think you have some thoughts on that too. But let's start off with the beginner group. And first up is Barry Kruver. Let me get his name up.
Barry Kruver.
Get his name up so people can see it and correct me if I'm wrong. There you go.
Barry throws a curveball in his name because it looks like Curver at first, but then you see it's switch around.
I thought the same thing. So he has here a picture of a fire truck in the fire station, converted to black and white.
Yeah, black and white. I think was, well, when I worked in the Arcanum, when I first started in 2013, black and white was kind of my, I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of like the chip on my shoulder, or the problem. I had a real problem with black and white. I just couldn't get the tones in my black and white photos to look right. And then I bought a camera that had this weird high contrast black and white mode on it. Now, I never use modes. I shoot in manual. It's something I just have learned to do over the years, and that's what I'm actually more comfortable in manual than I am throwing the camera into an auto mode, because I'm not sure what the camera's thinking. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it had this black and white mode in it. And I just said, oh, well, I'll play around with it. I want to learn more about black and white. And I started playing with it, and wow, I am totally infected with the black and white bug now. And I always love seeing other people's black and white images because everybody does this so much better than I do. The tone on this image is gorgeous. I just love I love how the A in the central fire sign is melted. I'm like, you guys practice on your own building here or what? But yeah, so I really enjoy this image a lot. I like the street feel to it. There is some, I will tell you, you're a beginner at this, you're doing very well. The tones are great. That's the strong point of this image. The subject matter is awesome. That's great. For me, there's just little things like there is a bit of pin cushioning from your lens. Now, if you look at the windows up at the top, there's a little bit of pin cushioning, and that's what it is the curvature of the lens. When you took the photo, it bends what you're seeing. So if you used a wide lens or whatever with this. And also for you beginners, this is huge for beginners. Please, please, please tell me in simple words what made you press the shutter button. What made you stop here and press the shutter button? That is going to help me reach the goal in giving a critique for you, because it's very tough for me. I can give you my opinion, and honestly, opinions don't mean anything. Everyone has them. I can say what I would do to the image, but that isn't always the best information for you. The best information is tell me what you want. Tell me what you want to get out of this image. Tell me why did you stop here? What made you press the button? When you tell me that, then I can help connect the dots for you between where you are, and you may be there already. You may nail it. We were just talking about this earlier before the broadcast. Actually, not Mike and I, but my wife and I were talking about a person puts up an image and they say, I was trying to capture the sunset, and it's just a picture of a sunset. I mean, okay. Goal achieved, I guess. I don't really have anything to, compound on there. But if you said that, like the sun was warm and on me, and it just stopped me in my tracks. I had to get the foreground with the grass waving, and you say things like that. Then I'm like, okay, now I'm getting in your head. Now I can put myself in that kind of area with you, and then I can give you better information on how to achieve that. And you obviously would bring an image like that to a critique like this because you felt that you were a little short of what you really wanted to achieve. And that's how I help you connect those things. So whenever you guys submit these images, especially beginners, please, please, please give me your goal. Give me what you're trying to achieve. So technically, the toning with this, subject matter, love it. Love that it stopped you here. I'm not so sure that the windows at the top are really working all that well for you because of the pin cushioning. It's not as obvious down at the bottom, although I can see a little bit of it below in the driveway line there in the garage. I can see it curved a little bit. You want to use your profiles in Lightroom, or if you're using another RAW processor, usually they'll have a lens profile, and you'll match that in Lightroom. And you're shooting in RAW, and what that will do is go ahead and fix those lines. Now, if you don't have that, you can use Photoshop to do it. There's a wide angle lens fix filter in Photoshop that you can use, or you can do it manually with the Photoshop RAW filter, where it allows you to just manually control what they call pin cushioning, which is that bending of the image. And it isn't really helping your image here, so you'd want to try to straighten out those lines if at all possible. Other than that, excellent image. And as always, you black and white photographers, I'm jealous of the tone because people have so much better toning capabilities than I do, and I
was going to ask you about the lens profile thing, because I do that. Most of my lenses are in there. I shoot with the Nikon D700, and a lot of it with the 7200, and that's Nikon 7200.
Yep.
That's definitely in the profile. And sometimes when you forget to do it and you go back and you do that, it's amazing the difference it makes. So
so if the lens is in there, it's cool. If it's not in there, sometimes the profiles aren't great. I found that, I used to have a fisheye lens, a diagonal fisheye that I used all the time, and I used their profile, and it would get close, but it wouldn't be right on. And I cheat a lot. I will zoom in on the photo with the magnifying glass in Lightroom, and then I'll slide the photo up, like you're looking at different areas of it. I'll slide it up until it meets the edge of the screen, which is perfectly straight. That's your built-in ruler. And there's where it'll be really visible, and that's what we call that border patrol when we go around the edges and we look for things like that. And you can use the edges of your screen for something that maybe your eye doesn't see, so you just you go through that check. And the pin cushioning is under the manual lens adjustment in Lightroom, and it's also in the manual lens adjustment in the Photoshop RAW filter in Photoshop as well. And what that allows you to do, Camera Raw also, I still think you can get Camera Raw fairly free, maybe. If you search around Adobe, you might be able to find it. But Camera Raw is just kind of their RAW processor, and you get basically all those features in a very not great interface, but it works. But yeah, you just adjust the distortion, and that will bend it one of two ways. It'll bow it out or bend it back, and it's just finding where the bow is right in the middle, so you kind of remove that from the image.
Can't you also put grid lines on your screen when you're doing it in Lightroom?
In Photoshop, you can. In Lightroom, I don't think that there are grid lines that you can move around.
I don't know if you can move them around, but I think you can put some in it. It can be distracting if you leave them on all the time. But I thought I had some on. What I've done, because
you can do the thirds.
Yeah, I just got finished shooting a soccer thing where the field itself had a curve to it. And then as I'm moving, I'm on a monopod, and as I'm moving around, I noticed I did not do the best of jobs of keeping the horizon straight. So
you started to lean with the curve.
Yeah. So I put those grid lines on there, and I put the transparency really low, so they're not that obvious, but it's enough where I can look at it and correct that. Awesome. All right. Well, that's Gary. Up next is Jade. If you remember, Jade last month was the one we went over at the very end of the show with his waterfall shot.
Yes.
And let me get his name up there. There's Jade Cook. Hopefully I'm saying your name right.
Hey, Lou, welcome to the stream. I see you over on Facebook there, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Lou.
Cool. Do you want to read the information, or would you like me to?
I can read it if you want. You did a lot of talking last time. All right. So you get some camera specs. I won't do that. Shot in color, handheld, resting against a chair. This jigsaw puzzle has lived on our dining room table for the last 3 years. It took my wife and me a very long time to complete. Taking it apart signifies a major change in the adventure that is our life together. I saw the light coming through the window and bouncing off the surface of the puzzle, and liked the look of the pieces highlighted by the light, and thought it would look cool taking the first piece from the puzzle. In Photoshop, I thought I brought out the details with Color Effects Pro and removed noise with Topaz, and then converted it black and white. Darkening corners to remove distracting lighter areas. So, do you want me to highlight some key points in that, or you just want to go?
No, I actually really appreciated you rereading that tonight, because I actually have a different take than I had last night when we were struggling getting the stream up and going. This was one of the photos that I did want to focus on, as far as lending some information about taking the photo, which is almost too much information in this case. But I do appreciate the story, and the beginning part of the story. And this kind of opens up another thing. It might not pertain to this photo as much as I thought it did. Now that you've reread that, I think that it has a different kind of meaning. But I want to address that still, the original thought. So when I originally read the description of this, like I said in the first photo, I asked people to tell me what a little bit about what you were going for. I originally took it like this thing that was being conveyed in the story was the fact that the puzzle took a very long time to complete, and taking it apart signifies a major change in the adventure that is their life together. That actually is just a nice, hi there, this is me, this is who I am sort of thing. I don't think it has anything to do with the photo. I think it was just he was explaining the moment more now that I see it in this light, so to speak. And then he says he saw the light coming through the window. So there was a moment right there of like, ooh, I saw this. I want to grab the camera. And he took the photo. Now, Gary out in the chat over on YouTube said he might like to see this stacked and have it all in focus. I am going to disagree with that because if it's all in focus, it becomes a noise monster at that point. Every single puzzle piece is going to be competing across the image, where here we have a single focus line in the middle that draws our eye away from all of this noise more into the piece that's set out of the puzzle. Originally, when I saw this, I thought he was trying to portray what he was saying in the beginning of this as the jigsaw, puzzle meant it signifies taking
3 years.
signifies a major And I was like, Mike, I'm like, a single piece out of a puzzle is like it's finished. It means things are done. It means resolution to me. It doesn't mean that it's, So I'm glad that I kind of looked at that in a different way, and it brought up the good point that your photo needs to stand without narrative. Okay, we all have narrative in our heads when we're working on our photo. The trick is, how do you get that to somebody else? How do you get that? And that's where you've got to take your processing, you've got to take your composition and all of that kind of stuff, and pretty much get your photo to convey that to the viewer. And that's the thing that your composition, color, all of that stuff has to do with. Your toning, your contrast, and your subject matter. All of that has to come together to tell a story with no words being told. Now, with that said, I also told Mike that if this photo was part of a story, it works great because you've got narrative to go with it. But when you bring it into a critique and you're saying, I'm working on this, and that's the other thing, you guys, when you submit these photos, are you going for a documentary shot? Are you going for a fine art piece? It could be a million things, and I can give you answers on all of those that would be different. So I like the photo. I like it without narrative. I told Mike it was one of my favorite photos. It was submitted by the beginners.
Yeah.
That was the very first words out of my mouth. I love the depth of field to it. The light is beautiful. He did a great job of taking the dark edges out. The top edge might be a little too light, but it does give me an idea of where the light is coming from. So that's cool. That's just
I like that everything in the photo is the puzzle.
Right.
All the way to all the edges, all we have is puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good image, but for sure. And when I originally read it, I apologize. I think it was mostly on me that I kind of read it and thought that was what the goal was, to show a major change. And it doesn't do that for me at all. I read that, then I looked at the photo and went, that's not working for me. And then I said, all right, what is it? What am I seeing when I see this? And, so I probably too would mention a little bit about letting your negative space work for you in a case like this, whereas the single piece of your puzzle is in the center. It's a very targeted shot. And I would probably move that into the lower right third, so it leads you into the image, and you have all that negative space kind of working against your puzzle piece that's pulled out. But that's something that you're going to want to mess around with your crop and see what feels the most powerful to you. When you look at your image and you play with different crops, you will see, I always tell everybody, do this, play around with the crops. Don't be afraid to do that. I know it's like, great to get it right in camera, but when you're learning, the crop tool is your best friend, because you can crop and see the different power levels that you get by making that crop. Put your image on full screen, stare at it, study it, look at it for 2-3 minutes, then crop it and try putting your subject matter in the golden spiral or putting your subject matter in the thirds, and then put it full screen again with that crop and see if it doesn't draw more power for you. See if your eyes aren't just glued into one spot in the image. And that's going to be how you learn how the compositions have an effect on you.
Yeah, so it's so easy to crop, uncrop. I do most of my stuff in Lightroom, and going back and forth is so easy that it's worth the effort to do that. All right. Let's go next. And the next two are by the same person, so we're just going to pick one of them. Do you have a preference between these two? The subject is basically the same, one darker, one lighter.
Yeah. I have... Okay, yeah. Probably either one's fine, Mike. I think probably number 5 in the slides.
Yeah, let's do this one. So this one, see if I can get her name right. Haley Mashuda. Haley Mashuda.
Yeah.
And she submitted 2, and when we have a theme, you can submit 2. She's submitted 2 infant photos, one with a darker black and white conversion, one with a lighter black and white conversion. Different poses, but 2 different looks there.
Yeah, to me it was the two photos, and you can switch back and forth between them if you want, just to show the other photo. For me, it was kind of, it was kind of like the one photo I love the light, and the other photo I like the fact, like this photo I just like the fact that I can see the eyes and see and this photo I like the light. Yeah. So it's like the difference between those two, and I don't know, I'm probably behind the stream. Yeah. But it just, if you could have combined the two of these photos together with the nice high key of this photo and then the expression of the other photo, I think that you would have had a real winning shot here. It's just each photo is missing that key component. I'm not, this angle doesn't make me feel comfortable, or I don't get a story or anything. Do you, Mike, at all?
No. And this, I think this is Haley's first time submitting. So Haley, make sure you give us a little bit of information, because she did not. You don't have to give us all the camera specs. That's good for people in the group to see maybe sometimes what your camera specs are. Sure. For the review, give us, it doesn't have to be a long write-up. Millen is the king of long write-ups, and that's fine. That's fine too. Yep. But, just a sentence or two about what this image means to you, why you took it, would help out. All right. Did you want to move on, or do you have more?
No, I just was going to say hello to Tim, and I saw Barry's in the out there as well. Yeah, Tim's hanging out with us. Tim.
Tim?
Yeah, answer the question. He's on Facebook. Answer the question about, did you order the A9 yet?
Yes, Juice Roberts wanted to know if you ordered that.
Uh-huh. How many did you order? That's what I want to know.
All right, you ready to move to the next one?
Sure. All
right, this one is by Dawn. Let me get her name up there. Oh, her name cut off. How can I fix that? I won't be able to fix it right now.
Dawn Ella Rose Hansford -Cox.
Yes. Dawn, I'm sure. Sorry, first part of your name cut off there, but that's Dawn's. That's Dawn's photo there. All right, this is she did not give us information either. Dawn, you got to give us some information.
Yeah, and we'll make it quick. I mean, because that's the thing. Can't spend a lot of time spouting off at my my talking head kind of answers for any of this sort of stuff. So without a goal. As far as a landscape photo goes, when I look at this, I see a dark strip in the middle of what really is supposed to lead me through the image. So rather than having a nice smooth gradient through this image and having the light in the beginning moving to the trees and then moving to the mountains in the background, which to me, the mountains are where I want to go. That's where I want to be. I want to look out over this and look towards the mountains. But the mountains are kind of blended in. And, then you've got this area up at the top. You guys can't see my mouse pointer, but you have this area at the top where it was sky, but there's nothing going on. Why not go for a more epic look or epic crop to this and bring the top down and put more of the thirds in the at the top of the tree line and the bottom of the tree line, and go for a wider cinematic kind of crop with this, because there's no information up there really that's doing anything for you. It's not even a balanced negative space. And then we've got a little bit of a weird angle going on with it. Kind of, the image feels like it's leaning to the left.
Yeah, I can't tell if the mountains actually go like that or we have a lean to the image.
No, they actually go like that. And the only cure that you have when you come across a landscape like this, and you have a natural grade where a mountain slopes off on one side, and it does it in a certain way that makes it look like you're leaning a little bit. Sometimes you need to move to, like here, I would have suggested to move to the left and then shoot more to the right to remove that left side a little bit more. Your image is still going to be this nice creek that winds around, this frozen creek that winds around with the mountains in the background, but you would lose that sloping on the left-hand side that makes it look like it's leaning. It's actually straight because I can look at the houses and see that the vertical lines in the houses are straight. So, you can see that there. But it's always tough when you've got leaning conifers coming in on the right. you know, you got the mountain kind of leaning. Suddenly, things that are even straight sort of have that leaning feel. So when you're out there, be situationally aware. You know, keep your I always tell people, always use your viewfinder. I know it's like convenient to use an LCD and all this kind of stuff, but it's something about getting inside the camera and shutting out the world and looking through the viewfinder that's the magic of photography. That is what makes us focused. That's what gets us into the scene, and we see a lot more that way. So
I like to hold it tight also against the face to help brace it too.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this could have been a little bit better image if you got rid of that left-hand side a little bit. I'm not overly thrilled about the tree that's over there. It's, you know, there's kind of the dark spot of the pine tree up above in the upper left. It's just kind of a distraction off that way. Everything in the middle is kind of even toned. And then this would have been, you know, a good photo for a gradient filter, where you would use like a neutral density, a graded neutral density on the top to kind of make those mountains in the distance, which may be foggy, or it looks like there might have been sun out there, that would have made that darker out there and kind of even this out a little bit more. Or you could apply it in Lightroom or Photoshop after the fact if you don't have a graduated neutral density filter, which a lot of us don't. I don't own one myself. I do it at home in post. I do want to say really quick, you do this every year. You have a big contest and you give away, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do it this year or not, but you give away a full year of Lightroom and Photoshop. I just want to say, I don't work for Adobe. I don't work for those guys. I don't make any money from those guys, but I have to say it's $10.79 a month to get a full working, up-to-date Lightroom, full working, up-to-date Photoshop with all the latest features. If you're a photographer and you're wanting to put out quality product and you're in a place like submitting your photos to a beginner's photo contest or even a pro photo contest, I don't want to hear that it's too expensive. I don't want to hear that that is something that if you've got to go mow a lawn every week in order to pay for it, you should do, because every photographer needs to have those tools in their tool bag. And yeah, there's things like GIMP out there, and there's whatever it is. There's alternatives. Darktable. And they're great. They're great for dabbling and getting into it. But I have to say, as a professional photographer, that once you start using Lightroom and Photoshop on a regular basis, they really ease up a lot of dealing with open source software and all this kind of stuff. I tell people, if you're paying $7.99 for Hulu or $9.99 for Netflix, and that's your entertainment, you're paying that for entertainment, and it comes to something you're serious about like photography, and you won't pay $10.80, which is what it is with tax in the U.S., you got to think about that a little bit. You should.
Yeah, I think what's that? A little over $120 a year, right?
It is, but you can pay it per month. And if you run into something where now they do have a thing right now, you have to pay for it for a year. You do save some money if you buy it for the whole year. It's not a lot.
Where I was going with that is, if you would never buy a lens that cost $120, that's because you would think it's too cheap.
Right.
So getting that software, when Adobe Creative Cloud first came out, AD, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I thought, I don't want to have to pay rent on my software forever.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but over time, I actually do the whole package. And
I do too now.
Yeah,
yes, I do too.
Because I don't think I would have ever bought Premiere because it was so expensive. I'd never bought After Effects. I probably would have never bought Adobe Edition. And I end up using all those things in addition to Photoshop and Lightroom. If I wasn't going to use any of that, the Creative Cloud, the photographer plan is a great deal for the $10 whatever a month. So yeah, you have to pay for it forever if you want to keep using it. But I don't know if I'd have bought all that stuff, and then I wouldn't have access to all that. So I've actually come around, and I actually think it's a good deal.
Yeah, I was totally against it, and I'm like you. We can move on here. Yeah. I was totally against it at first. I hated the idea, the thought of it. Once I got involved with it and realized that I was getting updates and I was getting the latest features. And of course, you get those people to be like, that's how they get you. But it is a better model for them to support a product. They can tell what works. They can tell what doesn't work for people. And it's a subscription-based thing. It's really, it is a better way for software companies to go. You're never actually purchasing software anyway. You're only buying a license to use it. So, and that license can be, companies can say, companies can say the license only lasts for one version of the software. It's perfectly legal. They can say, oh, you bought CS6. Well, the license is only good for CS6. You can't get CS7. But with Adobe CC, it's just you get the free updates. And they're pretty good about staying on. I haven't had in quite a while too many major problems with either one of them. So
Same here.
knock on wood.
All right, let's cut to one more. This one is by Kevin Rivas. And
yes.
A sign that says Hawksbill. He does have a little write-up here. He says, as I trekked down the mountain, I noticed a newly placed rosary on the sign I passed earlier. Excited to experiment with f1.8 on my newly acquired Nifty 50, which is 50 millimeter lens. I captured a picture of the intriguing rosary upon the sign. I sensed the rosary was placed there for a specific reason, or perhaps to bless future hikers. Either way, I felt the black and white added perception to the mystery. Hawksbill Mountain.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not sure about the composition of the image. I love the bokeh. The Nifty 50 and the f1.8 are an amazing lens to practice with and to play with. And I always tell everybody, if you're looking to buy your first good lens and you're like, I don't know what to buy, I should get this zoom lens, I should get this, buy a 50 millimeter 1.4 or a 50 millimeter 1.2 if you can afford it. I can't. Or something like the 1.8. Those lenses, they make you walk, they make you move to get the image that you want. So no lazy photographer, no standing still and just zooming at things. I mean, you could be a telescope, I guess, if you want to be for a living. But it makes you move, which is very important to teach you to move and to align your subject. And they're a bear to get the focus right on. So you can use the autofocus, but if you do it in manual, you're going to learn a lot about your camera. You're putting yourself in a situation of, how do you learn to swim? Well, you get thrown in the lake and you learn to swim. So, in this case, good eye on this. I think I probably would have tried to compose it a little bit differently. Maybe again, start with the very basics, moving the sign into the thirds and trying to balance that. I think I would have moved a little bit so there was more light and not that big dark block behind the sign, because that's a distraction. Contrasts are always going to draw our eye. So you've got a strong presence in the hawksbill arrow here in the rosary, that, and the wood itself has got a great texture to it. And then you surround it with the bokeh. Now, by putting the bokeh around all sides of it, you've kind of you've got this competition coming from all directions, where generally if you're going to have a competing item in the shot, you generally want to have it in opposite of the shot, like a mirror, like the bokeh would be on the left and the sign would be on the right, or something similar to that. Okay. Or maybe shoot this in a different, maybe in a square format works a little bit better. But this is something that would be tough, I would think, to get the rosary, to get the sign. There's just a lot going on here to compose it with the sign that's this way. I think I would have liked to seen it from a little farther back, and just having the sign stand off in the right-hand thirds with the arrow pointing to the negative space. This all starts to generate a cool kind of motion in the photo and gives you that negative space on the left, competing with the subject matter on the right, which the negative space is just saying, hey, go look at that sign, which points more power to the sign in the rosary. And the tough part would have been to get all that in, still understand that it's a rosary hanging there, and it's very close. I knew it was something, and until, when I look at these photos, I glance at them. I don't really study them. When I studied the photo, I could see that it was a rosary. When I first glanced at it, it just looked like a piece of rope around the sign. I didn't see the cross because the cross is turned.
Yep.
So it would have been better if you could have maybe turned the cross or moved a little bit, so that I could see the cross more matter-of-factly. And then putting that sign smaller in the image, I think would have given it kind of a loneliness kind of feel, which might have lent a little bit to the story, that the mystery story. And the black and white, anytime, I always test all my images in black and white. I'll be honest with you. I go after them for color and try to get the colors right. But if it doesn't work for me, I always look at black and white just to see if it, because people often say, and the saying is, an image in black and white is just the soul of the image. That's all you see. So you don't get the color, you don't get the boost, you don't get any of that other kind of stuff that all lends to the photo. So looking at it in black and white really strips away everything. And if it works in black and white, if you have good color, then you're usually guaranteed that the color image will be awesome. If you don't, then go black and white.
And, we don't know, this could be his only shot of that, but one of the things we were talking about last night as we tried to get through some technical difficulties is A.D and I were chatting about our drones and the video we take, and you end up taking a lot of video for a short amount of, final cut. And, think about that too, when you come in here, all those different angles AD just mentioned, just, you may not be able to crop them if this is how tight you shot. You may not be able to do anything about it after the fact. So while you're there, take a whole bunch of different angles, and then when you get back, you can decide which one you like better. You have options.
Yeah, the wonders of digital, right? And people can sit around and argue all they want about film and digital, and I'll go digital and be taking photos while you're arguing. So,
all right. So next we have the next two. I think the last two in the beginner group by the same photographers. Let's just pick one of them. Sorry, Nancy, we're just going to do one of yours. You have a choice.
Just whatever one you want, buddy. Hit me with it. I'll take. See. Challenge me.
Let's do the last one there, which is this one. This one's by Nancy Zoombach Smith. And Nancy. I think Nancy has won this competition before. Mm-hmm. And her comments here are thoughtful moment.
Yeah, this is a wonderful photo, and this was a close second. I'm not a big portraits guy. Anybody who knows me knows I've done it, but it's not a huge thing. I mean, I know a good portrait when I see it, but it's not, if I have a choice between a portrait shot and something like the puzzle shot, I'm like all about the puzzle shot.
Yeah.
Generally because I don't know the people in the portrait or anything, and I have nothing tied to that. But this is a wonderful shot. I love the light here. I wonder what the difference would have been though without the curtain or whatever is going on in the upper left. I just wonder about this image without that. Because to me, the story is the division, the wonderful tones, and the division of the dark side of her face and the light side of the image just is gorgeous. And the hair going everywhere. And that's just really cool and very well taken. I just wonder about, what is this curtain? What is it doing for the shot? When you're looking at your images, you should write down what everything is doing for you in the image. Like, what is it doing? Is it a part of the story? If it is it recognizable as part of the story? Not just to you, but to anybody. It's got to be super, super simple for people to understand what it is. Now, it looks like she was looking around a curtain, maybe.
That's what I thought from it, too.
Yeah, but it's not. You're leaving a little to the imagination, and I think in this case it's too much to the imagination, and that's where we have to, as artists, we've got to figure out what that line is. What do we leave to the imagination, but it's fairly easy to figure out, or do we craftfully push them in a certain direction with our images? I like to push people around. I like when they're looking at my image, I like to be like, haha, You know, I'll make you look at this. I'm going to make that. I'm going to do a subtle thing over here to get you to look over there. And so, you know, that's how, when I'm creating or crafting an image, that's what I'm thinking about when I'm doing my work on my images. So ask yourself those questions. You know, the light here to me in her face are the strong points. Is the curtain a strong enough competitor to be in this image? And if it is, how is it supporting the star of the image, which is right in the middle of this image, the face and the light? I mean, it's that left eye, right? I mean, it's just, that to me is the beauty of the image.
That side is so powerful that the other side kind of distracts from it. Now, this is one that she could not really do much in post processing, though, right? If you got back to your computer and saw that and thought, I wish I didn't have that there, she may not have thought that. But if you did, you need to go back and reshoot it, right?
No, I think you can. I think you could use content aware remove and take that out, and just go with a dark to light photo, and then this is a traditional crop. It looks like it's like 8x10 to me, and you could go to a more non-traditional crop, which is more like the, what is it, 5x6, I guess, right?
5x7.
But 5x7, somewhere in there. But essentially you bring in the left side of the image a little bit, and then cut this entire curtain out of there and just make it dark, make it go black. And I think it's suddenly a completely different image. I would love to. This is one of those times where I wish we had enough time for me to do live edits, so that I could actually edit things live for you guys and show you the difference in strength between that. I know it's one thing to explain it, but it's another to actually see me do it and then go, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, there's a difference there. So I think it's like I said, clearly my second favorite image out of this bunch. I had a tie for number 2, and this is right there with it. And I think the strength here is the left-hand side of the face and the light to dark, and then beyond the dark should just be dark to me. Having anything else over there just doesn't. It isn't enough of a thing to have it in the image.
All right. Now, as you spoke about your 2 favorites, we actually, bring us up. We picked the winner for this group live. The winner for the other group has already been picked. So we usually pick this live. So we'll be right back, and we'll tell you the winner of that group. All right, we're back. And I didn't know this. I'm looking out there. Nancy is actually out there in chat and on
Hi,
YouTube.
Nancy.
On YouTube.
Hey.
I'm glad you can make it, Nancy. Okay, so we discussed it, and the winner. This is for the winner of the beginners group contest, the one we'll post on the top of the page, Facebook group. Later, we'll pick the winner of the Lightroom giveaway. And tonight, the winner is Jade Cook with this shot of the puzzle. Awesome, Jade. It was tough. We had to debate it for a while because there's a lot of good photos here in the beginner group. I'm starting to think I need a beginner group.
Well, I think you might have some ringers. I think that's some ringers.
Remember
you guys. Watching you guys.
Yeah, remember you can join the regular group too. There's nothing that's stopping you from joining that too. All right, so let's get into the other photo contest, and I will, as we go through this, I'll tell you who the finalists were in that one. We usually pick 3 finalists, and then one of those becomes the winner, and I'll show you that. So up first is Gina Perry, and she was one of the 3 finalists. And I should remind everybody, the theme for this one, where am I at? The theme for this one was simplicity. Where is Gina's name? So all of these fall under the other ones we're going to do now should fall under the theme, simplicity. And I think, AD, you had some thoughts on a theme like simplicity.
Yeah, so I guess just a little explanation before we start talking about photos, which you can leave Gina's photos. This will be really quick. Essentially, when I think simplicity, I think a minimalist style of photography, which means one subject, one singular thing going on, and not how easy it was to take the photo or how little was done to the photo. So simplicity to me means a simple photo, and I think we'll see a couple examples here in this, but yeah, I didn't really look at it, when I looked at the images, I'm not looking at them as how easy is it for you to take this photo, or how little was done to the photo. Really, I'm looking at the subject matter of it and how many competing items do we have going on. Simplicity should be very few competing items. The message should be very strong with a very minimal amount of subject matter. That to me is simplicity. But I'm also trying to keep in mind too that maybe some folks may have thought of that in a different way. So,
and I know that some people struggle with it. I know Millen, and we'll get to one of his images later. He really, not that his photo struggled, I don't want to say that, but he struggled with that whole concept of simplicity, and whether I think at one point I might even consider whether he was going to join. But this first one up is from Gina.
Yeah, and about halfway through this, I'd like to take people on just a really quick round trip of what I kind of think of as simplicity. So I'll do a screen share when we get to that point. And,
okay.
Yeah.
You just let me know when you're ready. I'll flip us over.
Yeah, I'm just setting it up in the background, and we'll get that ready to go. So, yeah, this is a kind of a very typical, I want to say, not demoting the photo at all, because it's very soft and pretty here. But this is, I see these sort of shots quite a bit, that maternity shots but I think this does have a simple feel to it. I like it. I like the division. Gina always submits great stuff. I often ask myself, why is Gina still submitting? Because she definitely, but I love the fact that Gina still submits, because I think she still wants to learn more and more and more. And any photographer who ever stops learning really should pick up a new profession at that point, because there's always new things to learn out there, and there's always ways to get better than you are. And I learned at a very early age, being a guitar player, that no matter how good you were, there was always a million people who are way better than you were, and you would never get better. You'd never be the top guy ever. It just doesn't happen.
She's one of our admins too, so I think she, likes to contribute too.
Yeah, she does. And so this is just another excellent image from Gina, and very well done, and very well thought out. And I think that it's very simple. It's mom, dad, and the expecting a boy. So,
and maybe I should have chosen her other one too. So we may do both of Gina's, but you want to move on to the next one, or
it's an excellent image, Gina.
Okay. And this, I should have asked you, but Millen submitted two. This one, and if you want, I can show the other one quickly too, and we can pick one of the ones we want to go over.
I think this one's good.
Okay, we'll go over this one. This one, what did Millen tell us? A macro of a wild briar taken with a 10x macro filter at sunset. The sun was lighting the right side of the briar, and that is what caught my attention and made me press the button. I didn't have a tripod with me, so I had to handhold. The image was cropped to achieve simplicity, because originally there were some more branches on the right side, for me at least, were distracting.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks about some of the specs.
Yeah. So for me, when I look at this, there are two areas that are in focus. So suddenly I have two competing subjects. I have a stem with light on it. That's really pretty. And then I have the end of the briar, which is also in focus. So this is a very tough image to give a positive critique on, just simply because we've got the out of focus stuff is right in the center of, and if our subject matter is one thing, the briar, we would want to shoot this so that the briar was completely in focus. Now I see 1/80th f9, 55 millimeter. You could have gone down to 1/60th there, and bumped up the f-stop a little bit to get more depth of field. Because remember, your millimeters on your lens, generally for most of us, you can go 1 over that for your shutter speed and still not have any blurries from the shakes.
Assuming it's not moving.
That's right. Assuming that your subject is still. So I don't know, the kind of what else was in the image. I'm not so sure that it would have been a distraction, or maybe it could have been cloned out to give more space to the image. I feel just very crammed and very tight in this image. And then if you put on top of that there's focus in two spots. That's kind of the part that's, it leads me to two areas of the photos, and we don't want that. That's too complex. We want simple. So having everything of the actual briar itself being in focus, or just the front of the briar being in focus and then fading out into obscurity, or if the light was coming from the backside, maybe we need to move a little bit and put the light behind it and try to get a halo around it or something like that. Remember, if you go out and you do something and you frame it out and you maybe take 10 different shots of one item and you think you've covered all bases, you probably haven't covered 5% of it. I mean, there are so many millions of perspectives and angles, and different lenses make things look differently in perspective as well. So wide lenses look different when they're close up, and as telephoto lenses look different when they're close up as to when they're farther back. And they make different angles and make things look differently. So if you're ever in question, do a look on Google for the differences in wide angle lenses and portraiture, and see how it can change a person's shape just depending on how high you're pointing the camera, the angle you're pointing the camera, and then the focal length of the lens. This is why we don't generally use super wide lenses when we're doing portraiture, because it can severely distort a person's body shape and really just totally mess it up. So, I just think that this was a great subject, wonderful light. Millen is always thinking about what he's doing. Just keep going on something like this. So this would have been, Gary, I think, mentioned this earlier. This is an image that focus stacking would have been great for.
Yeah.
Now it's handheld, but you can focus stack handheld. I've done it. Adobe Photoshop is so good at stacking images. I've been able to just go out and move the camera, put it on high-speed shutter, move the camera towards the image very slowly, and just take a series of images, and then Photoshop can actually put those together in a fairly convincing manner.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Up next is this image from Louis Barraza. I think this may be his first time submitting.
Cool.
Yeah, I personally, one of the things that got me into photography was my kids' sports, but also I love just dropping drops into a water ball and snapping shots with the what do you call it, the flash, to freeze the water. I imagine that's what he's doing here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's quite a description. You wanted some motion in the lemon. Dropped into the ice cold water glass. He used a lot of flashes and stuff. That doesn't sound simple to me.
No.
But remember, we're not talking about a simple
setup
image to take. Mm-hmm. Right. We're talking about a simple and subject matter. So for me, again, this image, how much more power would this have if there was a lot more white around this image, with the glass in the lower thirds, with the splash of water going out, with a negative space, and everything wasn't so closed in on it? Mm-hmm. How much more power would you have in the image? I suggest, Louis, give it a try. Straighten it, put the glass in the middle, straighten the glass so it's perfectly level. It's not right now. It's leaning a little bit to the left. And study product photographers. There's plenty of them out there that teach on YouTube and whatnot. And product photography is so flawless and so much work, you don't realize. And if you ever want to try it, just grab your cell phone, put your cell phone down on the table, take a shot of the cell phone with your camera, and then throw it in Lightroom, and look at all the dust particles and everything all around it, and but when you look at product photography, there's none of that.
Yeah. There's a guy here in Atlanta. I think he's Eastern European or whatever. He's here in Atlanta who's just a fantastic product photographer. He has a YouTube channel and all that. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about, and I couldn't think of his name either. And I feel really bad because I've worked with him before.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably heard of him. If I remembered his name, you'd know.
He was in the Arcanum with us, and
Yep, that's the guy.
You're going to kill me.
All
I
right.
will find it and we'll post it. So we
Yes.
have it. This is an excellent shot, and a lot of work went into this, and you can tell that. Now it just comes down with framing it properly, and look at product photography and how they do like their framing and that sort of stuff. It's just a little too tight here, I think.
And Kevin's out in chat.
Hey,
So
Kevin.
he's in
Awesome.
YouTube chat. So if you had any questions for him before we move on.
This one's by Lewis, I think.
Did I pick the wrong guy there? Lewis. Yep. Sorry, Lewis. Did Kevin? Didn't we do Kevin earlier?
I don't
know.
think so.
All right. Well, let's move on. maybe we have a Kevin later. This one is by Ian Salt. Cool name, by the way.
Yeah, easy name to figure out.
Yeah, even I can't mess that one up. Ian Salt. And he says, the feather fell on a slate table I have in a garden and stuck due to the water surface tension. Symbolic, direct, opposites, black and white, areas of wet and dry, sun and shadow, simplicity in the photo, yet somehow deep.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's I think it's an interesting image. I don't know how simple it is.
I think it'd been better without the feather, actually.
Maybe a little bit, a little bit abstract that way, with just the water. But I think he said it right in the description. Black and white, areas of wet and dry, sun and shadow. Then you got a feather in there as well. That's a lot of things for simple. So I think Mike, you're right. Maybe a little bit farther back. He's got beautiful light working on the stars from the sun shining on the black. I think it would have been enough without the feather in it, because there's white in all of that light.
Yeah.
So, but it's an interesting image.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it fits into this category. And again, it's a little targeted. We got to be very careful when we're doing there you go. Hi, Kevin. I'm just harking back. He had the image with the rosary and the
there you go. Yep.
Sign. Awesome.
Okay.
So I think it's one of those things again, though, where the subject matter is targeted. It's in the center of the image, and that's okay if you're doing a square image where it's perfectly squared off. Instagram is wonderful for that. If you have symmetry, that sort of thing. But you've got to go with this basic rule of thirds when we're trying to bring out the power of the image. Start there, and then if the image is got a story or something to it that's leading to something else, you can try different things. But I've always found personally that learning-wise, it's always better to start with the basic forms of composition. And definitely. If you're using a cinematic crop, you go with the lines closer to the center of the image for your thirds. If it's a standard crop, say a 5x7 or 8x10, then you use the thirds or the golden spiral. To me, it's just this image is too close in. It's a little targeted, and that what happens is that kind of moves it into the snapshot department. That's the tough part of it when you don't work out the art of the composition. Composition is not easy, trust me. It's like modes in playing the guitar. It took me forever to understand modal playing on the guitar, but once I grasped a hold of that, then my playing got so much better because I understood how different scales made different moods and could control the way people thought about my music by me playing certain tones over other tones. It's the same way with composition. Composition has power to it, so by studying that, your images will grow leaps and bounds when you start to incorporate even the basic forms of composition.
All right, let's do one. We're doing a second one for Gina because I just like this one. I want to do this one again. Another Gina one. Typically, we're not going to do two for the same person. What do you think about this one for simplicity?
Yeah, I think this is way more powerful than the other image. Just such a soft feel here, and I'm not normally a fan of these types of photos, but this is really well done. This would be a portfolio front shot if she was looking to make this her only business. she could really, this could be a huge springboard for her, because I think this is an excellent photo. You kind of look at this and you're just like, how is this done?
Yeah.
And, I'm not, I'm not overly in love with the wide crop here. I think this is probably is more powerful as a portrait crop, or as in, again, Gina, play around a little bit with cropping the image and see what the power levels do when you look at it. Try a different crop. Maybe put the baby in the left-hand lower thirds and leave all that blank space on the other side. Or just try it as a portrait or a perfectly square image, especially for a portfolio shot as a square image. This is very well done because it's got symmetry. Okay, and so when we want to put our subject matter right in the center, that's fine if you have symmetry. And you can't have a little symmetry. There's no such thing. Just like there's no such thing as a little abstract. It's either abstract or it isn't. It's either symmetrical or it's not. So
she did have a little bit of write up here. She said the baby was caught up in the most epic photo shoot I've ever done. I'll explain more in due course, but needless to say, I wanted to create something really special.
And she did.
Yeah.
And her goal was reached. And that reached the goal, right? There's the goal. She wanted to do something really special. And this is definitely shows that. It just comes down, I think the little thing here is just like the crop is a little bit, and I don't know whether it might just be the photo that I have or whatever, but it's a little off center.
Well, you never know, because I'm grabbing it off of Facebook. It should be the same. But I mentioned earlier the other one of Gina's was in the final 3. This one wasn't. There's a number of us voting, so it's not always Mike's wishes.
Right.
Of the two, I like this one better. They were very close in the voting, but the other one got a little bit more. And only one image from one photographer could make it to the final 3. So the other one from Gina is what made it.
And unfortunately too, we should mention probably the unread rule for a forum's moderator who gets into their own contests usually has a few points taken off.
Yeah, and you can't.
It's just natural,
and you can't vote in the final, so we have that thing. So
yeah, right.
All right. Up next is this one from Jade. Let's do this one from Jade.
Cool. Hey, I want to just say hi to Dave Stevens. He just tuned in too. Dave, thank you so much for tuning in. That's awesome. He's over on Facebook.
And Ronald McCartney is out there in YouTube, the other place.
Awesome.
All right, Jade. There we go. All right, and this is a ladybug, and what does he write? Went out to water the garden this morning and saw this ladybug innocently sunning itself on one of the leaves from my chili bushes. Rushed back inside to get my camera and tried a new trick I learned a few months ago, and have only once tried. Took the 50 millimeter off my camera and held it in reverse. But this means it had to be within 1 inch of the ladybug.
Yep.
So,
you know that trick, right? The 50 flip. They actually sell an adapter for most cameras. And I would highly suggest, if you want to play with it, they're so cheap, get the adapter and use the adapter, because just holding the lens flipped around is very difficult to do. It's very difficult to get it perfectly on there on the front. And what the adapter does is it makes the lens even with the sensor so that you don't have any weirdness going on. Yeah. And it'll focus a lot better for you.
Okay.
So what he dealt with here, I love the F0. What he in his specs, what he dealt with here was essentially it's very hard to focus, because your depth of field at that close there's almost nothing there to dial it in with to see. So I think he did a good job. It's a nice soft image, but again, composition wise, it's go with the basics of composition, especially, in a contest where we're talking simplicity. If you've got some complex reason why you put the ladybug so close to the center, then it's already not a simple image. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so I think this is the kind of stuff, though, love to see photographers who don't consider themselves beginners and still experiment and play around like this, because this is how you just get better every day than you are. So if you have dreams of being a top photographer and getting your software for free and all this other kind of stuff that goes along with these wonderful things and learning these new talents and whatnot, you've got to constantly be open to learning something new, and also constantly understand that there are always people who know a hell of a lot more than you do about it. So you should never think, oh, I know more than this guy, or my photos are better than that guy. Somebody always has something to teach you. Always.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Beginners teach me all the time. Every time I look at a photo, every time I do one of these, I learn so much, because it makes me search my fundamentals and make sure that I'm looking at everything when I'm out there. So that's a learning process as well.
We all get caught in our own groove, and sometimes watching somebody else can help you shake that up.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Up next is this one from Doc Hobie. Let me find his name that I can put up there.
Hobo. It's Hobo.
I don't know if it's Hobo.
Sure. Hoboe. Hobo.
Hobo. Okay. Doc Hobo. All right. I actually really like this photo.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites as well.
I was so sad I didn't make it into the final three.
Yeah. And that again, if my voice rings out into some of the folks that are voting out there, maybe that came down to composition. And was it symmetrical enough? Was it leaning a little bit to the left? I kind of like the way it kind of brushes back and forth. It is leaning a little to the left. When I think of fine art images, I usually try to make sure that I remove any sort of distraction. For me, there's a distraction on the left. There's a dark spot in the back that kind of draws my eye over that way. There's dark spots on the upper left as well, where there was something back there. If you're setting an image like this up, and I'm going to say that he might have found this image, but someone set this up.
Yeah.
Someone set this.
You mean it didn't happen in nature?
Yeah. Sorry. If that was the case, move the items a little bit so that the backdrop, that bokeh out backdrop, is nice and even in the back, so you don't have these light and dark spots. Or if you do, then you need to learn to use your tools in Lightroom, use an adjustment brush on an area, and use it to lighten up those areas so that they're not so contrasty. So our subject in this photo is the shells and the stone, and we should not go away from that. That's where we should be. I shouldn't wander to the left-hand side, which my eye keeps doing. I guess, and that's a fact of distractions around the image. So, I think it's probably, like I said, one of my favorites that was submitted. There's just, I would have shot this a dozen different ways to see what came up with, and then gone with just the most powerful one. And maybe that's what he did. And the only thing I can lend is just I would try some different things. I think it would look really cool in a portrait mode, to just give it a lot of negative space. I always try to shoot things now. I shoot them in landscape because I'm so used to being a landscape photographer. So you shoot a lot of stuff in landscape. But you know what changed that for me is when I started shooting panoramas, to shoot a proper panorama, you turn your camera actually in portrait mode, and you shoot different slices, and then you put them all together so you get a super wide. Well, I found that I started putting my camera in this portrait mode a lot. And through the panorama, I would find like one image that stuck out way more than all the others. Like, why am I doing a panorama? That's my image right there.
That goes back to that stuck in a rut thing, because the last soccer game I shot, when I came home, almost every image was in portrait mode. And as I was editing through them, I was thinking, God, I wish I'd have mixed it up a little bit better.
Yeah.
And done some more landscape. Anyway.
Yep, I do that too.
Yeah. All right. Up next is one from a photographer. I don't think he's entered in a while, but he used to enter all the time. This one is Michael. Let me get his name up here. Where's his name? His name should be in alphabetical order.
It's Mike Demagol.
Mike Demagol.
Yay, Mike.
And what does he say? I took this one today at Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is one of my favorite places to go. I really like the shape of the tree, and I wanted to blow out the lake in the background to isolate the tree. I used a light meter to get a starting point for the exposure. Took a 5-frame bracket and processed a shot with the least amount of background and the most detail. Processed in Lightroom and Nix software.
Wow, that's a lot of work, Mike.
There's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. I think I would have just gone long exposure and called it a day. Personally, it's just me. Either way, though, wonderful image. Hit the nail right on the head. It's simple. Simple. So how do we simplify this image and make it like even more simple? Well, I probably would heavily edit this image and make sure that the shoreline that's on the left-hand side here was equal to the one on the right-hand side. So yes, I would cheat and edit my photo so that that was even, but it would be a very interesting image, I think, if we didn't have a shoreline to look at and we just have this tree on a white background, and that leaves that mystery of, whoa, how did he take that? Was it at the top of a hill? Was there a lake in the background? Was it snow? I mean, there's all of that kind of makes the mind wander a little bit that we don't, I kind of knew this was on the edge of a lake, actually, because you can kind of tell the way that it's turned. So I don't know, if that's what he wanted to do. If he wanted, it sounds to me in his description like he wanted to make sure that the lake was kind of a non-thing. I don't think that I would. I know it's a really strong compulsion, but please don't frame your images, please. I'm just gonna put that out there. Don't frame them, because I will tell you that framing an image generally means that you feel like it needs a frame around it to do something for it, which shows weakness in your image. Don't do it. Don't frame it. Let people frame your images. Don't frame them yourself. And it's just one of those things. I don't frame images. It's cool on Instagram to look at filtered images and that kind of stuff, but that wears off real quick. Gets old real quick. And he had a strong image here without that. I don't think it's needed. So, all
right, I only want to do 3 or 4 more.
Okay.
If you're all right with that.
Yeah, there's like a huge list here. Holy cow, lots of people. That's good, though.
That's why I told you to put all these in here. So if you didn't get picked this month, keep entering. You may the next time. I do want to always go with the 3 finalists at least.
Yep.
So we're going to go over this next one from Dean Stone, and that is this picture here. Dean's name. And Dean says, since this month's theme was announced, I've been studying the genre of minimalist or minimalism. I took a journey downtown Dallas with an eye set to look for minimal things. Then I went to post it and forgot the theme was simplicity, not minimalism.
Well, I think for us, it was one and the same, for me at least. Yeah. I am going to share a screen if I can remember how to do it. So Mike, are you ready?
Yep, whenever you...
Okay.
I will switch this over to you.
Good to go.
Maybe should do a little bit of a crop there.
I've lost you as usual.
Yep, I have
there it is.
Yeah.
You're back, sort of. Nope, lost you as usual. Skype, I hate you. Now my window with you is gone. There it is. It's back. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, folks. All right. This is my buddy, my good friend, Scott Norris. And Scott studied with me over at the Arcanum, and he is a mentor now himself. Scott is absolutely amazing in the world of minimal photography. I want to show you a few of his images. Scott rarely travels within like 2 blocks of his home. Wow. Most of the time. And he comes away with just some amazing images with what's just around him. And he's totally into this minimalist thing. Now, these are all photographs that he's taken with his camera. He doesn't have top of the line equipment, all of that. But he just takes these very simple photos. And look at his composition. He's in the upper thirds, right? He's using these simple tools there it is, the lower left thirds. It's just 2 items really that our eyes are drawn to, the tower and the house and maybe a little bit of the cloud, but it's still very minimal. This is very minimal. So if you want to see an amazing photographer, artist that specializes in minimalist photography, go check out Scott's page. I know it sounds like an advertisement, but you will be inspired by Scott and his work and how simple it is. This was ice on his window outside his office in his house. That's, I mean, very simple.
Like
a leaf
yeah.
on snow. I mean, but I want this on my wall. I want these things on my wall.
What is that?
Well, see, there you go.
Is that like a brush or something?
Well, Scott has this wonderful talent. He's a 3D artist, and he mixes his 3D work now, his renderings in 3D with his photographs. So sometimes he'll render and overlay a photo, or sometimes he'll take a photo and use it as the basis for his render. I think this was a render of his based on a photography based on 3D art. He doesn't always explain what he does. This is full 3D art here. But a lot of times it will just be simple photography with a texture overlay or something to that effect. I mean, just look at the color. And I mean, that would just look gorgeous on the wall. I mean, the tones and everything.
Yeah. We need to get Scott. I need to get Scott on the jpeg2RAW show.
Yes, he is. He is going to be on. Anyways, that's Scott. Go check him out. Be inspired. You will definitely enjoy his work for sure. I'm so fortunate to have been able to hang out with Scott and also work with him now and call him a friend, which is also always great too. So.
Okay. All right. So now back to Dean
Stone.
He was one of the 3 finalists, I should mention.
Yes, with good reason. This image, while we won't give away too much, was very close. You're very close here, Dean. One of the things is that you're dealing with symmetry, and you're dealing with brutal architecture, 2 of my favorite subjects. But with symmetry, you got to be dead on. So it means you either get it with the camera, which is a study in frustration. If you go out and try to get something symmetrical in camera, you'll spend a lot of time positioning the camera and then going, nope, no, move it a little bit. No, recenter everything. Nope, still not right. What's wrong? I got to go this direction. Then I move the camera and it's wrong in the other direction. Symmetry is like mind numbing. In a case like this, where you're probably shooting up at a building, you're already having to do some straightening of certain things. And when I see this image, I want to just enjoy the abstract part of it, and it's not symmetrically centered. So there's on the upper right, you can see there's a little bit of blue peeking through there, but on the upper left, there's a lot more.
Yeah.
And so
and
when
the 2 arms or whatever aren't the same distance from the top or the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, and that takes away from the enjoyment of the abstractness of the symmetry here, and just lets us kind of get lost in this. Yeah, it's very close. That's what I'm saying, and it could be easily fixed. It could be easily fixed. One of the things too is on the extreme right edge, it almost looks like the photo's bent, and because of the black border, and that's because the line is right on the crop thing. So I would have cropped in just a hair there, and made sure that I was in the blue when I cropped that, so that you didn't get that woofly line there on the edge. And you just basically, put down grid lines in Photoshop and stretch and manipulate your photo so that these lines are all perfectly straight. If you can't get it in camera, which is very difficult, as I said, but a worthwhile study. Trust me, you will appreciate putting in the time in that department. But it's and brutal architecture is, buildings like Chicago's great for it, New York, where the buildings are very, the lines are very strict and straight and repetitive in that type of architecture. So I like what you did here. Love the colors. I like the cloud that I can see in the background. I think that's pretty cool. And that's the part that I want to get lost in. I don't want to be kind of getting a leaning feeling or an uneven feeling here. So when you get symmetry perfect, it removes the symmetry from the image. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it no longer has a push-pull effect. It now draws you into the photo. Yeah. So symmetry is one of those things where things in the center and things straight on and all that kind of stuff are okay. whereas normal compositions, we move them to the thirds.
What about if you look, it's on the left, the sides, what was it, left upper, you look like you can see some of the lights maybe inside the building?
Yeah, I don't know if that distracts me as much as it's not even. So,
Okay.
and I have this kind of tilty feel to my, I look at it and I'm tilting.
Yeah.
And if I'm dealing with symmetry and I'm dealing with vertical lines, I want it to be
perfect.
Yeah, it's got to be symmetry. There's no such thing as almost symmetrical.
Yep.
Just remember.
I've heard that from you. Yep. All right, we're gonna skip ahead and go to the other one of the finalists, and this one's from Ronald McCartney. That's what he goes by. There you go, Ronald McCartney. And he actually was the winner of the contest.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I tell you, I like the image and everything. For me, it does not fit simplicity, but I like the image.
Yeah, there's too much going on in the image for it to be simple. So we got a bridge, we got a river, we got a photographer,
sunset,
and another photographer in the background, which most people don't see right off. And then you got the sunset. And I think too, in this case, having the horizon right in the center, we're not dealing with reflective symmetry here. So it's not okay to have your horizon dead in the center. And the bridge looks leaning back. This is, it's a very difficult photo to take, to compose it properly from where this particular photographer had taken the shot. You would have to move up the bank more to the left and higher and get the bridge even with the horizon so that the stanchions or the parts of the bridge here, the abutments of the bridge that are holding up the center of the bridge are straight up and down, because that's just all that leaning kind of back look. When you lean things back, it gives the viewer a sense of I'm being looked down on. And that's a tough sell when it comes to photos. A lot of photos fail in that department unless you're going for an ominous look. And then I don't think sunsets and photographers spell ominous to me. I'm not afraid of those things. So I don't think you should try to install that with this sort of, bent back look. So moving up up this little cliff face here a little bit, and straightening up the bridge, I love the silhouette. I think that's great. I mean, you want to darken that silhouette even more. I don't want to see any of what's going on with this guy's jacket and I can see his shirt and his pants, and blue jeans, I can see, you can see all of that. If it's a silhouette, it's a silhouette. So to make it nice and simple here. 12
millimeter.
Yeah. Ronald's saying it's a 12 millimeter. And so, that is a difficult, I will tell you the trick, Ronald, in shooting a lot of real estate where they are adamant about lines being perfectly vertical, because if they're not, your house looks like it's not built straight, and you can't sell it. And I shot with a 12 millimeter a lot. And the only way that you can do that is that you have to take tilt out of the equation. You have to make sure that you are pointed right at the center of the horizon. That's your only option. So the only other option that you have here to fix that, to change the way that's composed, is to move up that ridge, which is going to allow you to keep the camera level, which will take all this tilt back out of there for you. And it's so easy to tilt back. And trust me, I've worked with a lot. Wide lenses are my specialty. I love them. But the only reason I know what it does is just simply for that. And the effect, when used properly, is great. If you use it for like an old house or an old building and you want it to have that ominous presence, to the photo, then it works great. But in a shot like this, I don't think it's working for you. And again, keeping the camera level and moving, you could have probably moved up, got both photographers, or maybe even, let's forget about the other guy. Sorry, dude, whoever you are. But keeping it simple, one photographer, one bridge. With the sunset, you could have put the bridge as the very basis of the frame of the photo, made it nice and wide, and it would have been one photographer, the sun, and the bridge. To me, that's simple with a silhouette. But we've got a lot going on here. You got the river, and you're there in the situation. It's the mighty Mississippi River. Well, yeah, you're going to see it. Yeah, you're going to want it in your image. But for this image, I'm not so sure that it works in your favor. For that said, it was picked as the winning image, and again, good image, just doesn't fit the category for me as well as I'd like it to. So my suggestions are based upon what the category fixes. But capture-wise, it's beautiful. But remember, silhouette's supposed to be a silhouette, so don't be afraid to bring those blacks down to where it's a true silhouette. It's going to just make that more contrasty and bold for you. But yeah, it's beautiful. I would have loved to have been there with you. So,
well, we've been going a long time. Let's pick one more and then be done with that. Do you have any preference in the last?
Nope, you pick it, man.
Here. So let's pick somebody
control.
Let's pick somebody we've never done before. As I look through this, there's maybe
somebody that I can offend that I have never offended before.
Yeah, so let's do Philip's image here. I don't remember Philip entering before. This is let me get his name. Philip. I'm about to butcher this. Haumesser?
I would say Haumesser, but Haumesser, yeah, that's close enough.
Ooh, maybe I'm getting better at this.
Yeah, I think you are.
So Philip says, I'm getting in here a little late, but here's my simplicity photo for the month. Okay, so he just tells us he entered this photo of little boy and a bunny rabbit.
Yep. Going for the cute factor.
And it is cute.
It is.
It is very cute.
I'm not sure about the eyes being closed. If he may have had like if he was going for daydreamy kind of thing, which does have kind of a dreamy kind of effect to it. But I'm not sure that the effect of a little boy dreaming maybe or something. I'm not sure. It doesn't. I'm not getting that in the image. I like the color of the image. I love the fact that the Rokinon 1.4 85 millimeters got this wonderful, just creamy look to it. It looks like he may have added a little bit more to it. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering about the focus is a little behind him. If I'm not,
it looks mistaken. To me like it's a little bit behind the boy. You can see it in the grass.
Yeah. So if you're using these lenses in 1.4 and you want to take an image like this, sweep your focus. Don't rely on the camera usually to focus. But if you sweep your focus, while you're sweeping and looking through the viewfinder, you can usually see a visual representation on the ground of where the focus points are moving. So it almost looks like a line of clarity as you move it back and forth. And that kind of usually will help you target this. And it just looked to me, it looks like I'm confused by the focus looking like it's behind, yet the head is in focus and the bunny's kind of in focus, but the boot, which looks like it's in line with it, which it might be tilted a little bit the other direction.
It looks like it's a little behind it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. So as you look at it, where does your eyes keep going?
To the rabbit.
Because, it's having a strange effect on me. It could be just because you mentioned it.
But to the patch of green?
No. It's actually going to the boy's eyes.
Oh, really?
I keep going to his eyes, and I'm actually growing. And the more I look at it, the more I like it.
Yeah. It's not that I don't like the image. I don't understand the image. I think there's a difference there. I like the overall look, and I like the thought of the message that we're trying to get across. I'm not sure it was the right decisive moment, and that is very difficult when photographing humans and animals and situations. Is that one moment that kind of makes the image, and I'm not sure that this is the moment. So there might be other moments, but this is the thing, Mike. You and I have talked about this with other images too, and we're going to wrap this up here. But it's when we process photos and when we take photos, we have a personal story that we apply during the whole thing and keep reflecting back to. It's okay to reflect back to that story in terms of shaping the photo to portray that story, but we can't rely on that in our processing. So to make that a little clearer, we can't just be like, have those thoughts in our head and think that other people are automatically going to get that. I think that's a huge roadblock for a lot of photographers when they're processing their images or when they're picking images, is that they relate a personal story to it. And if you're putting it out into the public as a piece, so to speak, to display, and you want a lot of people to get your message of what you're building and what you're doing as a story, it has to stand on its own and give that same message. That's the hardest part of doing photography, is making a universal message from one image. If you think about the complexity of that, there are movies that regularly get bad ratings, and they have a lot of frames in them. And they're bad all the way through. So it's just really hard to remove ourselves and our personal story from it. And if you do that with this image and you just look at it for what it is, it's very well done. I like it a lot. I love the colors all are unique and go nicely together. The rabbit to me is a little bright as far as, and that's where the center of the brightness of that lens is right now. He's got a heavy vignette on it. And I don't know as though the vignette should have been more on the face rather than just on the center of the image. I would have moved maybe the vignette more up towards and made it a little lighter, not such a more powerful vignette, just simply because the rabbit's so white to me that even though I do see I bounce in this image between the rabbit and the boy's eyes like you are and the patch of ground that's in focus. Those three, I would have probably made that patch of ground. I would have used a soft focus local adjustment on that, and just that's not consequential to the image at all. I would have fuzzed it right out so that it isn't drawing me away from this constant circle of moving around. So.
Okay. All right, so that is our last image we're going to do tonight. There's some other images that were submitted, but we went over quite a few tonight. So
lots of image. Wow,
lots of images. So
that's very good to see. By the way, I love seeing that.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm glad a lot of the photographers made it out for the show tonight to get that feedback.
I do, Mike, I just want to interrupt really quick because I saw two things in chat I just want to address. Ronald's making suggestions about things about his photo too, and I'm reading them here, and I'll try to answer those in there. And I noticed that also over on Facebook, Jade asked a question over there as well. If you guys have questions, I'm not selling myself here, but contact me on Facebook, friend me on Facebook. I'll take a look at your images, and I can't devote a lot of time to it. I do have a Patreon page that you can get mentored by me for $1 a month. That's all it is. You can be part of that community if you like, but just reach out to me on Facebook. You don't have to sign up for anything, and I'll be happy to look at your images, do some edits, and send them back to you. And kind of, I also record a lot of times when I do edits to people's photos, and they can watch me do that live, and I narrate while I'm doing it. It gives you an idea of what's going through my head when I'm thinking about the image, and you learn that way. So just a thought there, but I'll try to answer the questions in both of the chats here in just a minute. So.
Yeah, and I didn't lead off with this, but we always thank AD for coming on, and he mentioned his Patreon page. You can find him over at theexplorographer.com, and all of his links to everything you need to get to is down there on his website. To YouTube, you put out a YouTube videos on a regular basis out there. You do every Thursday. You do a a 3D Thursday? Is that it? So
yeah,
that's another topic that you do.
Yeah, 3D Thursdays where I do a 3D print and give away a free 3D print every week. But that's going away actually at the end of May because I live in an area where we only have nice weather 2 months out of the entire year. So I'm not staying in my house and staring at these printers back here while they print. So yeah, I'm going to take the summer off, and then we'll be back in the fall and doing more. So
yeah, very good. So go out there to his Patreon page or to his explorographer.com. You can find it there. And in each post, the show now is on iTunes. It was already on Vimeo and YouTube. And there's also a post on our website. And those posts on the website have links to AD also. So we do need to pick the winner of the Lightroom preset. and this could
Oh,
be from
yeah.
any group. So if we need to, we do need to. So hold on, everybody. We're going to be right back.
I had a particularly amazing day today. So a lot of big things happened today. So I'm just in a giving mood, I guess.
Yep. So thanks to AD. We were discussing which one. We narrowed it down to 2, and AD said, let's solve this by giving it to both. So tonight's winners are Barry. Let's see, Barry. What's his last name? Kruver?
Curver, yes.
Barry Kruver?
Or Barry Curver, because I keep looking at it and thinking Curver.
And so this is the first time we're going to do
Barry.
2. And Kevin Rivas.
Yes.
Congratulations, guys. Both of you guys get A.D Wheeler's Lightroom preset. Lightroom. Did I say it right? Yeah, Lightroom preset pack.
Yep.
Lightroom preset pack. I will be sending you probably through Facebook a message on Facebook on how to get all that. Congratulations on doing that. Thanks everybody for entering. And Ronald, big winner out there in our regular Facebook group. And who won tonight in the other one? Crap, I've already forgot.
Jade Cook.
Jade, yes, Jade. So congratulations, everybody. Thank you for coming. We've been at this for almost an hour and almost 2 hours, so I think it's time to quit. Remember, you can get this show on YouTube, Vimeo, and iTunes. This one only comes out in video. Unlike the other one, we don't put out an audio feed because I think this one needs video to be any good. So get it in all those places, and we'll see you next month. Don't forget to enter. Let me do that. Let me tell you how to enter. In either one of our Facebook groups, you can go to, let me get this page pulled up. Either our main Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/jpeg2RAW, or in our beginners group. You don't have to be, even if you're a beginner, you can join a regular group, but we do like to have mainly beginners in the beginner group. And the theme for this month, for April, the little few days left, is light in the regulars group, and anything you want in the beginners group. Then also, if you don't want to be on Facebook, you don't want to enter that way, you can also go to our website, go to photo contest entry, and then you have your choice between the 2 groups you want to enter, either the regular one or the beginner group with a theme listed underneath it. You can choose either one of those to join. So just get your photo entered, and maybe we'll pick it to review. So until next month, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.